So we're going to go through this one, and it says it is a sine curve and determine the equation. So make sure you read it carefully. So in this case, I'm asking you specifically to make the equation with a sine curve. So not sinusoidal. Sinusoidal means either. So if I say sinusoidal means sine or cosine. Then you have a choice. If I say sine, then you have to do sine for sure. All right, so make sure you read the instructions. So if I say sinusoidal, that gives you the option. And if I say sine, obviously it has to be sine. Then, just put this stuff aside. We've got max, min. So every single one of these, I'm always looking for the max and the min and the amplitude and the axis. So I'm going to do my max, I know, is going to be at 0.5. My min, you don't have to label this, but this is what my brain is thinking. My min, if I look at this, whenever we give you graphs, we don't always label every single square because it gets kind of busy. You want to figure out what each square is worth. So here, this one, if that's 0.5, this will be 0.25. So each square is 0.25. So if I know that this is 6 squares high, then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 0.25. We know that this whole thing is going to, oh, we don't even need that. I'm going to do this part. This is easier. So if we know every square is 0.25, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times 0.25, that would be, minimum would be negative 2. Right? Is that, or no, negative 1. Right, so negative 1. My minimum's at negative 1, so 0.5 to negative 1. All right, so look at that. My axis here is y equals negative 0.25. Okay, and again, you don't have to label any of this, right? So it's just for yourself to know. If I want to find this, I don't have to do... Sorry. That is my ringtone. I don't have to do any of this subtraction. If I'm given the grid, I can just count squares. So what is the amplitude? Right, so the amplitude here, I can read it off the grid. Reading off of the grid, I have 3 squares high, so that would be my amplitude is 0.75. Right, so I'm just trying to not make a mistake, 0.75. Okay, so you can read it off the grid. You can also do the equation. So we'll do sum. So the equation I'm talking about is these ones. I can do max minus min divided by 2, max plus min divided by 2. But if I'm given a grid, sometimes I just calculate it right on the grid. Okay, so it's up to you. We'll do the next one. I don't give you the grid, and we're going to use the equation. Right, so here I can do that. I have my axis. What else do I need? I need the period. So the period for this, right, so the period is this long. If I know that every 4 squares is 20, every square is going to be 5, right? Every square is 5. So that would be over to here, that would be 40. So period equals 5 times 8 squares, so it's 40. You can just go straight to 40. But if you're wondering how I got that, my brain, I'm thinking 5 times the 8 squares wide, so it's 40. Okay. You always want to find k, right? So you want to find k. And then when you fill that in, it'll be 40 equals 2 pi over k. And then try to do this faster so that you know this is over 1. So you're bringing that up here and this down there. So you're swapping them, right? It's faster to do it in one step. So k is 2 pi over 40. And that would be pi over 20. You don't have to show me any of these steps. When you're doing the equation, we do mark your final statement, right? So if you do this kind of more on the rough and write your equation at the end, that's okay as well. So I've got that. So I've got my k, I've got my amplitude, I've got everything. Do I need a horizontal translation? Right, so the last part here is, do I need a horizontal translation? So horizontal translation. Okay, do I need a horizontal translation if I'm doing a sine graph? If I'm doing a sine graph, remember that I am considering this to be either the sine graph, which begins here. So this is sine theta, or you can consider it to be the sine graph that's upside down, which means that your parent function here would be negative sine. Okay, so you can have it sine or a negative sign. In that case, you would put the negative in front of it. So this one here would require the negative because it's heading down. So you are allowed to use that. You were allowed last year. We didn't do a lot of it because we weren't as comfortable yet, but you might be more comfortable this year. All right, so when I look at this, you want to start in the middle of the graph on the axis and heading up, which would mean the translation would be 10 to the right. Right, so I can do 10 to the right. So that would be 10 to the right. That would work. You don't have to state that. That's your brain. I'm going to write the equation. Then I'm going to say, okay, what if I stretched it back? So I'm going to do 3 samples of the answers. I only need 1. I want you to try to get the translation that's as close as possible to the y-axis. I don't want you going over here. If you go over here, I might dock you something because you're going further away than necessary, right? So I always want you to have an equation that's simpler. So sometimes what we say is write the most simple equation, which means I would choose this as my point, not over here, right? So see how this is still the starting point and it continues, but why have you shifted it that far over? So we usually say try to aim for the simpler equation. The simplest equation means less shift. So if I say 10 right, my equation would be f of x equals, my amplitude is 0.75. I'm using sine, right? My k is right here, so it's going to be pi over 20 x, right? Then you make sure it's in a bracket because you've also got a translation and it's 10 to the right. So this will be minus 10. Okay, stop me if I'm wrong, please. Right, 10 to the right. Is that all right? And then 10 to the right, and this is translated down, so there'll be minus 0.25. Does that make sense? Okay. You have other choices. So that is my first one where I went 10 to the right. What if I wanted to do a different one? Okay, a different one. And I wanted to go, an easier one would be to force it backwards. Right, continue it backwards. It's periodic, it continues forever. So what would my horizontal translation for that one be? Still 2 squares, so it'd be 10 to the left. Does that make sense? So if I did that one, that would also be good. That is also a simple equation. It's very close, right? Again, I'm asking you not to go far away, because why go far away when you're already so close? So this one or this one would be nice. You could even use this one and make it go negative, but why go 3 over? So if you kind of go over here, you're going, well, why are you pushing it so far over when you could have chosen something closer? And again, that's what the calculator does. Remember how I said the calculator just finds you the first angle it can find? It's looking on the graph and it's finding you the first answer, right? As close as possible to the y-axis. So 10 left, the equation would be identical, 0.75 sine, except for this, pi over 20, and then the only thing different would be x plus 10. Does that make sense? And then everything else, 0.25, exactly the same. All right? And the other option would be to move it way over here and then make it a negative sign. Do you want to do one more, or? No. Oh, sorry, negative sign. Yes, that's the one that's negative. Yes, so this one here, okay, because it's heading upside down, my parent function would be the negative sign, so we'd go negative. Whoops, does this show up? Negative. There you go. So negative, negative there, and that would match this one because it's upside down. Yes. Okay? So this would match that because your parent function you're choosing is the negative sign function. That makes sense? So it's negative there. Do you want to do another one? We're okay. Those would really be the 2 closest. I always said try to get the closest one. You're not wrong. You're just making the equation, you know, why make your equation start over there when it could be closer? So I always say try to get one that's closer, right? And don't do one like 10 away because you're just trying to be mean to me and go, ha, I made it 10 periods away. I made it as far away as possible. No. So, okay, so try to go closer. Good enough. And again, there's multiple, but those are kind of the two closest.